So here, Director Rugby Dave Morris. Tough weekend for the first 15 again this week down in Blackheath. Tell us a bit about that.
It sounds like I need to change the record a little bit here each week. But yeah, we had a really good first half, and all week we've been talking about we'd had a really good first half against DMP, and making sure that we came out firing in the second half. And one thing that is a constant is that we just cannot fault the boys' attitude and commitment. They want it. We want it really badly. Speaking to the Blackheath coaches afterwards, their half-time team talk was basically takes on with the set piece, be pretty direct against us. That forced some errors, and they managed to get some scores pretty quickly. And from that point on, obviously you're playing under a huge amount of pressure, and you're playing catch-up, and things can spiral a little bit from there. But Blackheath are a very good side, well-coached side. So we've got to give a huge amount of credit to those guys. But there's some outstanding performances within our side as well. I thought Adam Peters from minute 1 through to minute 80, really physical, just kept working. George Eastwell has shown a real level of consistency now. And these guys are seasoned first team performers. They've been in the first team for a long time, and you might expect to sort of say, well, they're obviously the older experienced guys, they're going to be performing well, but playing for the club and fighting every minute of the game really means a lot to those guys, and they certainly really inspire me watching them play, and we need to get behind those guys and follow their lead, and that's what it's all about now. It's about people staying calm and doing what needs to be done, and leading from the front, and we can't wait to get cracking this week and go at Ampthill on Saturday.
Ampthill this weekend. It was a close one when we went to them. How are you preparing with the guys for that?
It'd be great to be back at home, and I think probably looking at some of our video stuff is, again, it's not a lack of will and want, but we've maybe lost a little bit of the structure that we want, with people almost sort of working too hard to sort of get around the ball. We've lost a little bit of width in our attacks, so it's going to be very much about just sort of returning to some of the fundamentals that we looked at pre-season about what our game's based upon, and then going out there with plenty of confidence, smiles on our faces to achieve it. We know that the challenge we're going to face against them, they've got a good blend of experience and youth, but we think there'll be some areas that we can definitely take those guys on, as we proved last time we played down at Ampthill. So it's a game we're hugely looking forward to, and so just can't wait to get going now.
And finally, we watched the Wales-Scotland game together. What did you make of the Six Nations this weekend?
I caught the tail end of that, and obviously good to be watching it next to Ciaran as well. Wears his heart in his sleeve for anything to do with Scotland. Got Rory Pitt in his prehab next to us, he's a Scottish boy as well. It was just good to have a little bit of banter with Ciaran over that result, really. Watched a little bit of the England game on Saturday, and to be fair, England were very impressive in that game. Italy very competitive in the first half. Is a little bit like Blackheath v Loughborough in many respects, but it's hotting out to be a good Six Nations, and I think France, obviously not winning by much, but to suddenly get the momentum, 2 wins in a row, that's going to be important for them as well, and they're going to be hard to beat, because everything's on for those guys at the moment in terms of the Grand Slam.
So here at Ciaran Beattie, disappointing for the second 15 to have their game postponed, but on to Nottingham this week. How are you preparing with the guys?
It was disappointing, but we can look at it either way. Now we're going to get a straight run into the quarterfinals now, so we'll go Nottingham this Wednesday, Leeds, rearranged fixture for Leeds away, and then we're in the quarterfinals. So pros and cons. I think it was disappointing because we trained so well and prepped really well for that week, but we'll be fighting rolling in this week and just taking it game by game. So How are we preparing? We'll do a good review session tonight. Get the boys, try and keep the boys. It's not about hyping them up at all. It's the opposite, about trying to keep them feet on the ground. And then we'll always do a big session on a Tuesday, so we'll go physical, lots of running as well. So it just gets the blood going for Wednesday. So excited for that. Yeah.
A disappointing one for the first 15 on Saturday. What should you make of the game down in Blackheath?
Yeah, I think it's the same story, unfortunately. First half, we were winning at half time. Yeah, no. 2 points in it, is it?
Yeah, 2.
2 points in it. We were there or thereabouts, and I thought we were playing our game plan. And then, there's 2 teams in it. They came out and they upped their game. We maybe fell off at a couple of percent. They definitely picked it up by a considerable margin. Up their scrum, up their maul. And then suddenly we're chasing by 7, chasing by 14, and then it's just a different game altogether. And yeah, we didn't cope well with it in the second half again. So the really pleasing thing for us though is there's no panic at all in terms of we've actually compete against every team. We compete against them all the time, and it's just about maintaining that for 80 minutes. And I remember speaking about this last year. It's the same thing, there's no panic here, we're still in a decent position. We've still got absolute belief in the boys and belief in the game plan. And it's just about, as I was saying, nailing that for 80 minutes. And that's what we've got to do this Saturday. There's not zero panic stations at all. It's actually the opposite. It's like, right, let's just do what we're good at. Roll on Saturday.
Finally, we watched the Wales-Scotland game in the clubhouse at Blackheath. What do you make of this week's Six Nations game?
Yeah, we did watch it there, didn't we? And there was surrounded by Welshmen, including Dave Morris, and they let me know about the final result. It was good, probably picked it, fair result. It's just good to see us competing, which I thought we would. Not surprised by the English result at all. They're a good team. I actually had France down to win just as well, so all predictions correct so far.
So who drew Chuter? Disappointing one for the first 15 on Saturday down at Blackheath. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, Blackheath are obviously a very good team, near the top of the table, very strong up front, and sort of turned the screw on us a bit. But I think we can take a lot out of the game. In the first half in particular, we played some really good stuff in quite poor conditions. So I think in terms of rugby development as players, there's a lot to be learned from that. Some real standout performances. I thought Adam Peters was fantastic. Played the captaincy role very well and led from the front in everything. And some of the scrummaging in the first half was pretty good as well against a very good pack. So James Lassis and George Davis are still very young props, but they're making some good progress. So I think, obviously, very disappointed not to come out with anything from the game, and we're well beaten in the end. But I think there's still quite a lot to take from the game as individual players.
Postponement for the second 15 last Wednesday, but on to Nottingham this Wednesday. How are you preparing with the guys?
It was disappointing actually to have Leeds postponed last week, but you have to deal with that. That's one of the things you get with British weather. But it gave us a chance to have a pretty sort of tough week with the Bucks guys last week as well. So they trained against the first team Tuesday and Thursday, which will sort of serve them in good stead for this week against Nottingham. And Nottingham are bottom of the table at the moment, but they're a very difficult side to play against, particularly in their place. We found out last year when with a pretty good winning record, and then went to Nottingham and lost. I think 17-10 the score was in the end, so we won't be taking them lightly, that's for sure. Like I said, they're very plucky at home. They've got some good players, so we'll be preparing as thoroughly as we always do. So we've got some good momentum going with the Bucks, but it's important we just try and keep that going.
And finally, what do you make of the Six Nations this weekend?
Sort of a strange group of games really. I didn't see a lot of them all told, but Scotland Wales sounded like a cracker, and the other games were perhaps slightly less in terms of quality, but the French did the French and turned up and beat Ireland at home, and you can just never write the French off at home. I didn't think they played particularly well. Ireland were very disappointed as well. I think they would have seen that as an opportunity missed for an away win. And then Italy, again, Italy played like Italy against England. They were good for half an hour or so, but then so in the second half it sort of fell off the pace a bit, and England coasted to quite an easy win in the end. So yeah, it's probably not a lot to sort of say in terms of where teams stand in respect to their form, but interesting, I suppose, interesting weekend in the Six Nations is about the best you can say.